Strength and conditioning work, I'm often asked about that. I don't do any gym work. The only strength work that I do outside of swim, bike and run is 50 press-ups on my knuckles each day, and I do them on my knuckles to strengthen my forearms because that's incredibly important for swimming. For us, even though we've got all day to train, we don't want to be doing more training than is necessary, and strength work is obviously an extra session. So what we do is we incorporate the strength work into our sessions. So we do a lot of paddle work in the pool, so we're swimming with paddles, and that's the equivalent to basically doing press-ups. You know, it's very hard, as you'll know, on the forearms and on the triceps. So yeah, using paddles is like strength work in the pool. Doing the hill repeats on the run and on the bike is like doing leg press exercises, and it's just as good. There is a place for strength and conditioning, of course there is, as long as it's targeted and you're not just doing arbitrary exercises because someone thinks you should do. We don't do many drills. We do a lot of repetition in terms of, say, a lot of 800s on the track, so we do a lot of repetitive work, but we don't do a lot of drills or technique work. My coach, Brett, was of the opinion that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I think all of us are older than teenagers, and once your motor skills are quite advanced at our age, you can't change necessarily your running style very easily. So what we do is just learn to be as fast as you can with what you've got, and the key the key is not to try and get a textbook perfect stroke. So for example, in the swim, you'll see a lot of the swimmers in my team just come over like this. They'll just slap the water like this. But the key is not what they look like above the water. No one gives a toss about that. It's what you look like under the water. So people spend a lot of time, I know, looking great, and where's my hand entering and all of that. Just get the bloody thing over and concentrate on getting the power underneath the stroke. And that's, guess what, is key. Of course, technique is important, but you don't want to practice drills so much as to lose out on some of your other the other benefits of good, solid, hard training. Rest days. Yes, we train 7 days a week. A full day off for us is very, very rare. If we've got a 5K swim and then the rest of the day off, that would be classed as a rest day. You've got to remember that as a pro, we have a luxury that you age groupers don't. We have all day to train, and we have all day to rest if we need to. You guys don't. So whereas we can rest between sessions, you guys have got to go off to work, you've got to look after families, you've got to go out to the pub and go out for dinner or go on holiday and whatever, and that all takes its toll. So I do think that there is a place for rest days. I think often they should be less structured than perhaps some programs allow them to be. I think like I said before, you need to develop a feel for your body and respond to your body and know when your body needs a rest and be able to respond to that and allow yourself to take that rest, rather than saying every Friday is a rest day. Like, I think there needs to be a bit of flexibility, and you need to be able to listen to your body and, if necessary, take more rest if you have to. In terms of like the annual cycle, I train pretty much for 11 months of the year. Although I've only been pro for nearly 2 years now, so I can't really say what's normal, but I train for 11 months of the year. Downtime is after Hawaii, so I get a month whereby the volume is significantly reduced. At the moment, I'm only doing about an hour, 2 hours each day, and a lot of cross training. So I'll go hiking, I will do some running. I've done a lot of mountain biking, things like that just take me away from the regimented swim, bike and run, and it's much a mental break as it is a physical break. I'll build up again over December and January, and then from February I'll be back into the program, which pretty much stays the same all the way up to Hawaii. And a lot of people do kind of periodization or whatever. I have to say that my program March didn't look very different from my program in, say, August, except for the fact that my split times were probably getting faster. I think, you know, all the work for Hawaii was done for me back in February, March, April, May. So by August, all the work's in the bank. So you don't want to be cramming in August and preparing for Hawaii then. You know, I was confident in my preparation because I'd got that solid background right through from February. In terms of taper, of course it depends on the race. There were races I did this year where I didn't taper. I just trained all the way through, like Outdoors and Timberman being, I think, you know, 2 examples. I didn't rest at all before them, didn't reduce the training volume, just did them almost as I would do a training, you know, a training day. For the 3 Ironmans, we have the week before we reduce the volume quite significantly. And the reduction in volume is obviously proportional to the volume that you do ordinarily. So we can't reduce the volume by too much, otherwise our bodies will shut down, but we do reduce the volume. But the most important thing is that we retain the intensity of the workouts. So say whereas my brick session ordinarily would be a 3-hour ride into 15,800s on the track, 4 days before an Ironman, it's a 2-hour ride and 5 800s. But I do those 800s at the same speed that I do the 15,800s. So I don't do them any slower just because an Ironman's coming up, but we do a lot less, obviously. In terms of recovery after the race, we train the next day. Not because we're masochistic, although we are, but because it's important to get the blood flow going. So you don't want to finish a race, whether it's Olympic distance or an Ironman or an uber ultra crazy Ironman, you just want to do something the next day. We never do anything hard or difficult, nothing to get the heart rate too high, but just something to get the blood flowing, and that's quite, you know, that's quite important. For the week after an Ironman, we'll do the sessions, the run and the swim sessions won't really go over 30 minutes each, and the bike sessions 1-2 hours if they're steady. If you go over that, then the immune system starts to be compromised, and that can really impede recovery. And then after a week, then we're back into full training. In terms of training locations, this year it was Asia and Switzerland, and the 2 locations were important, I guess for 2 reasons. Firstly, that they were secluded, so we were kind of isolated from the triathlon world. There were no distractions and we could be very focused, and that's incredibly important, I think, to me. I need to be away from distractions and incredibly focused on swim, bike and run. And also important, of course, for the physical conditions. In Asia it was the heat, in Switzerland it was the altitude, and both of which were important in enabling us to develop strategies to cope with, you know, the pressures that both of those bring. Obviously, age groupers don't have the luxury of being able to train for long periods of time in those type of countries, but if you can prepare the best you can, either by having a week's holiday in a hot location so you can at least find out how your body responds to those kind of conditions. Go cycling in the Pyrenees if you can, you know, just to find out how your body adapts to the altitude. Heat chambers are great. There's one at Roehampton. I know there's some up in where my club was in Birmingham. You know, if you've got access to anything like that, that's great. And if you're doing a race in a hot country, they're incredibly beneficial. Okay.